In this video, we're going to talk about the criteria for the best IT consulting niches. And when I say the best, those are the niches that should ideally make you the most revenue possible. Now, how do I know that? It's because our company AceMakers works with a lot of IT consulting companies, over 300 companies by now, and we have tons of data of what works and what doesn't work. We focus on business development and scaling them. So I will share with you what seemed to work the best for our clients in the last 12 months. I hope this will give you some insights and it will help you make better decisions or how to steer or start your IT consulting company. So we've identified two basic criteria. There's tons of other criteria, but those are really the first ones to start with. And this is business size that you're targeting, and this is also supply gap. So let me explain what I mean with that. Business size, pretty straightforward. So this is basically you trying, or our clients who got the most revenue and grew their business the best, basically work with clients who have money to pay them. So no tiny companies, but the closer to enterprise, the better. And I'll show you a chart in a second what this looks like. The second thing is a supply gap. And supply gap, it's essentially what's missing on the market. And here you need to understand what are the other options on the market where other companies can go to if they do not work with you. And here, typically, they have two alternatives. The first alternative they have is in-house expertise. And here we're looking at something where they lack in-house expertise and face a scarcity of specialized talent in your IT consulting niche. And that ensuring your services addresses those specific gaps. And then the second thing we're looking at on the other side of the spectrum, let's say they don't have internal team, they want to hire a IT consulting company. We want to make sure that this service is not easily provided by big consulting firms on the market already, so that it's easier for you to attack this market. So for example, if there are huge firms, companies like Deloitte, or if they can easily go to Accenture, etc. That is something that we're trying to avoid, essentially targeting red ocean of something that's basically not abundant on the market. So now what you have is companies that have money to pay you and they have a need that is not on the market. And that's gonna make your life way easier, or at least it for our clients. So when we talk about the business size, really here on this chart, you can see what we're trying to avoid, what we saw doesn't work great, which is micro companies. So let me give you an example. If your offer in IT consulting and your specialization is, let's say, some kind of CRM, and let's say this is Pipedrive, that's what you focus on, then what we've seen is that companies that make much more revenue, they focus on solutions like, for example, Salesforce. And the reason for that is Pipedrive is oftentimes used by smaller companies. It's generally speaking cheaper, whereas Salesforce is typically used by larger companies all the way to enterprise level. Even companies like Amazon use that. And this is essentially where you want to be. You want to be specialized in something that big companies use. So here you can see micro companies. I basically break this down from self-employed, one person, to around 10 full-time employees. Then you have small from 11 to 50, medium from 50 to 500, and enterprise from 500 plus. Now, if you look in different sources like Federal Census, or if you look into companies like, Gartner, they might break this down in a different way, but you get an idea of how to look at the breakdown. You're essentially trying to go to as big companies as possible. It's going to be hard for you to target enterprise when you're starting out, but you get the point. You want to go into small, medium, and then keep leveling up towards enterprise as soon as you can. And then as for supply gap, here, it's a bit of an abstract conversation to really tell you where's the supply gap. We typically go into your positioning and we try to figure out which of the things that you do is not out there on the market. There's no abundance of this on the market. And I will show you a couple of examples so you can get an idea of how to find those things. So here's a few examples. It could be ERPs. ERPs are great because typically companies that hire less than 50, 200 full-time employees, they don't really use tools like SAP. So this is great because you're instantly targeting companies that have more full-time employees. And then within ERPs like SAP, for example, you want to find a very, very, very specific niche. So if you go very broad and you don't have a great unique selling point of, let's say, very specific module you guys are specialized in, then this will be very hard for you to compete. An alternative could be Microsoft Dynamics 365, and there are other ERPs on the market. You could think Oracle, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, SAP has the majority of the market cut. Then the next one is BI, business intelligence, and data analytics. So you could think of things like Power BI or Tableau. Now, when you are going into those, what we've seen works really well is if you specialize in very particular industry. So, for example, you go and work with construction or you work with real estate. Those industries, different industries, they operate in a different way. So if you have tons of experience with one industry, this really helps with the sales process. Also, what really, really works well is if there are some tools that they already use that can be connected with, for example, Power BI reports, that really, really, really helps you niche down because there are not many companies that specialize in particular tools. So if you find something specific, be it, some software that real estate companies, like real estate management companies using, for example, then try to go down that path. That will, help you niching down. The next one is cloud native, containerization, DevOps, CI/CD pipelines, things in cloud like AWS, Azure, containers like Kubernetes, Docker, Terraform. Those are really great. And generally speaking, I've seen small companies of our clients really getting conversations with enterprise, even if they're like 1-2 person company, really, really fast. And I'm really talking about proper enterprises, not necessarily in the US, but in a lot of smaller countries. We've seen this, for example, in Poland, being quite easy to get into this market. There's simply not that many people out there who are in those IT consulting areas. The next one is, and this one is huge when we get clients from the US, those are MSPs, managed service providers, although we work with companies, for example, in Germany who offer something like that. Essentially, MSPs is a company that is helping you manage your IT infrastructure. So here you are trying to find companies that are big enough that can afford service like that. They can afford somebody who will help them and set up their email protocols, make sure that everything works. There is no cyber security issues in there. But what we have seen, and that by the way works as a subscription if you're not familiar with that model, but what we have seen is a lot of companies try to target very, very tiny companies, like, kind of like mom and pops, self-employed, tiny businesses with their MSP service. And those will not have much budget to pay you a lot for that. What seems to work really good is if you target wealthier companies in super specific niche. Now, you're not going to go for huge enterprise here. Because huge enterprises will have specialized internal resources to pretty much tackle anything that's needed, or most of the things that are needed. But as an MSP, you can target companies that have at least 10 employees plus. You can go towards those medium ones. And then here you're really looking to get into very specific type of business where you can add more value with some other services that are relevant to this business. Like, for example, something with cables, hardware. So if you figure out one type of business that is, very similar across the entire country, that is not a tiny business, and you figure out how to really find great solutions to help this type of businesses, then you're in the right spot when it comes to MSPs supply gap. And then IT recruitment. This is great. It's recruitment, so it's not exactly IT consulting, but it's really similar, kind of sister industry from our perspective. Really, IT recruitment is great because as you can imagine, if you need somebody in IT, let's say SAP as specialist within something very, very particular with specific language, let's say they speak German or some other requirements, and you have a crunch time on the project where something broke, and you're in an enterprise or a larger company, or at least a medium-sized company, you're willing to pay a lot of money to recruiters to get you somebody on the project real fast. And this is really why this business model works. Now, here with IT recruitment, again, you want to specialize in something that can help those larger companies find somebody really quickly, typically on those crunch time projects. That really, really helps. And then we have also industry-specific process optimization. So this one is really interesting because this is something that a lot of people talk about when they try to start a company that helps with digitalization. And to me, the term, from positioning point of view, this term is pretty vague because, digitalization kind of can mean as much as marketing means, which is everything, right? So essentially, if you focus on digitalization and optimization of processes for one specific industry and you niche down with that one specific industry, you start having this consultancy kind of value and approach where you can really tell them what tools are the best, how to optimize their processes. And here you can think of things like real estate management. You can think of a lot of different specific industries where you can start learning how to improve their processes and dig deeper into helping them really first with consulting and then implementation of tools and solutions, essentially. So to summarize this, really the best thing that I have seen in the last months in IT consulting industry when it comes to niching down is niching down and targeting not tiny and small companies. So that's really the basic of what you want to consider. Now, by no means those examples exploit IT consulting completely. Also, this is going a little bit beyond IT consulting, like IT recruitment, etc. But those are examples that should give you an idea of what to think of when you're niching down and growing your IT consultancy. Thanks for watching the video. I think it was helpful. Again, Remember, this is not all the criteria, but I wanted to make this video as straightforward and as simple as possible to help you with your thought process when you are trying to start with outreach, when you're trying to start looking for clients outside of recommendations, outside of your current network, or even if you're like a very starting phase. So a lot of people we work with, they already have 25 full-time employees in a company, 50 even, they still need that because they get a lot of clients from recommendations. So now they're looking for a very specific kind of approach on the market, because if you market everything, you're essentially marketing nothing. So even if you're 25 full-time employees company, even if you are just starting out, I hope that was helpful and useful for you. Thanks for tuning in.